You have arrived at Locally Sourced.
All right, Middletown, welcome back to Locally Sourced, episode number 8. We are so happy to have a great guest today, someone who I've gotten to know over the past few years, an advocate for not just Middletown, not just Monmouth County, but across the state of New Jersey, a name that everyone knows because of the advocacy that she and her organization do, and we're so proud to be part of her family and the 180 Turning Lives Around family. Liz Graham, thanks for joining us, the executive director and CEO of 180, here live at Town Hall with us. Liz, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We're grateful for everything that you do. And Liz, I've said this. You and I have talked before, and you have such a great group and such a great organization that does amazing, amazing work. And I think all of your board members too. But what gets me every time I'm at a 180 event is when you're at, whether it's the fundraisers or a community gathering, you bring somebody that has been assisted by 180 Turning Lives Around, and never once is the story and the background the same as it was previously. So I just want to give you a minute, if you can, tell us, for those listening that don't know who 180 is, because I always call it the organization that you wish didn't exist, but are so grateful that it's there for the women and children of Monmouth County and the surrounding counties. But just give us some background on 180 and your role and the roles that you've played there.
Sure. So 180 is Monmouth County's domestic and sexual violence response agency. So what that means is that we serve the domestic and sexual violence survivors throughout our county who are experiencing domestic violence and need support services that could include shelter, may include our Family Justice Center, where we're helping folks at the courthouse with restraining orders, with divorce hearings. We have an art therapy program for children. We have counseling in our office. We have a ton of wraparound services. We're really there to try to meet survivors where they are and help to provide the services that are going to allow them to restore their lives. One of the things that we work very closely with Middletown is our domestic violence response team. I actually took a peek, and this year, just in 2024, the wonderful municipality and the police officers of Middletown have helped us work with over 100 survivors.
Amazing.
In domestic violence response to a call out. And what we're doing there is giving them support, being able to provide them with resources, letting them know what kind of services are available to them from 180, from the county and beyond. And really, we hope to be a support to the police officers so that we can let them do their job, and we can make sure that the survivors are getting up-to-date information about, whether shelter is available for them, whether we can get them into a counseling appointment, the next day, whether we can support them in the courthouse the next day getting a restraining order. So really being able to work alongside of the Middletown Police has been phenomenal. I think actually Middletown is our biggest call out number. Mm-hmm. It's a big municipality. And we also are operating a safe house. Right now, today, we have 63 individuals who we are providing safe housing to, who are fleeing from domestic violence situations, who are working towards, figuring out their next steps regarding housing, next steps regarding getting support from the legal system, and we're really providing case management. And we're really proud of the work that we're doing at our shelter. We do have the biggest homeless shelter within Monmouth County. Mm-hmm. I think we might be the biggest in the state, and certainly we are the only that has built from the ground up, and we opened our doors in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I mentioned the survivors that you have at those special, events, whether it's for fundraising or awareness. And, you look at these women and you hear their stories, and there's almost never a dry eye in the room, and you're absolutely inspired though by the grit and determination and success that in a moment in their time they were a part of a situation, whether it was one time or it lasted weeks, months, years, whatever the case may be, and they found themselves fleeing from a horrible situation, but then how they literally get back to life, whether it's for just them or for their kids, together. It's just so inspiring, all those critical wraparound resources that 180 provides, because I think that 180 deserves a tremendous amount of credit for being able to provide that kind of all in-house for them, because they go out and then they become entrepreneurs. They go out and they get these big jobs that you would think this person was fleeing their home not that long ago, and now today they're a successful business owner. Like, how does that happen? And it's really a lot of it is the strength of that individual, right? Number one, and then number two, certainly the services that 180 provides. Now it feels like it was just became CEO, but you've been at 180 for a long time. Big shoes to fill, obviously, as CEO, but I know that you're doing a great job already with becoming CEO after Anna Diaz-White service. So tell me, now you have Lori Davidson working as COO, taking your job. So tell me, how's it been? How's it going so far in your tenure as CEO?
Thank you for asking. So you're right, big shoes to fill. Anna Diaz-White with the organization for 40 years and really provided just the leadership and the vision that transformed 180 to being what it is today. I have been with the organization for 17 years, and I've been really privileged to work under Anna for all of that time, and really get to see, what kind of decision making she made and what kind of leadership really propelled the sacred mission forward. One of the things that maybe was kind of behind the scenes was that I myself am a survivor. As a young woman, I sought assistance at the courthouse and getting a final restraining order. And I knew about 180 because it was sort of a household name in my home. And I realized over the past 17 years, but definitely thinking about it each and every day now, that that's what we need to do. Make sure it's a household name. Make sure that with statistics like 1 in 3 individuals will experience domestic or sexual violence in their lifetime, we need this to be a household name so people know where to go. And it's been a really exciting time, kind of taking over the reins because, as much as you think, wow, I've been doing this work for 17 years, it's going to be seamless. It's going to be great. Mm-hmm. And it has been great. But it's definitely different when the leadership is your own and you're able to really take a look at the future for the organization. And I think the future is really that survivor-led organization where we're really thinking about what services are going to provide survivors with the most greatest advantage to do exactly what you just said, reach their full potential. Mm-hmm. And if we can help folks to reach their full potential and really to try to break that generational violence that has been in backgrounds for so long. So often we hear that mom was a survivor, grandma was a survivor, and we know that these cycles, need to come to an end. Mm-hmm. I think what we hear from survivors most is it needs to end here. It needs to end here because they do not want to move forward with their children being exposed to violence or their children going on to perpetrate violence or have to become a victim. So to be able to really take a look at what kind of programs we can put in place that are going to best help survivors, things like support groups, things like more court advocacy, things like more job training, all things that are going to make folks realize, like, I can move forward. Mm-hmm. I can escape this violence, find my true potential, and have a better life for myself and for my family.
That's a perfect segue, because I wanted to get into. I think it's while it's sad to think about and hard to think about, what are some of the signs of domestic violence? What should people be out there? I mean, you mentioned 1 in 3, which is a horrible statistic. To think that truly that your next door neighbor, one of your neighbors, is experiencing domestic violence on either side of you, right? What are the signs of domestic violence, and how can others help in being able to identify that? And what, if you are the victim of domestic violence, what should they be doing to, I guess, get in touch really with 180?
So I think that one of the things that I was talking about, the focus of the organization going forward, another big focus has to be community education, and really making sure that when folks are concerned about someone they care about, whether that is a coworker, whether it's a family member, it's somebody that lives up the block who you suspect, what to do. Because so often people feel helpless. People, think maybe it's not my business. And I think the signs, they can vary because each situation is different. But certainly if you find that maybe someone that you had good contact with has suddenly become isolated and kind of fallen off your radar, that's a sign. Certainly if you see physical symptoms of someone and you're asking them, what happened, and the story doesn't seem to jive with, to make logical sense, that's a sign. Certainly if you're in your workplace and someone has frequent, they're absent frequently, that can often be a sign. And I think that really, as a society, we probably don't do a good job of saying, are you okay, right? Are you okay? And I think that we need to do our best to make sure that we are looking out for each other. And if you do suspect that somebody may be being abused, right, you don't have all of the answers, and you want to make sure that you're safely helping that person. Mm-hmm. And reaching out to 180 as someone who's concerned is absolutely what we want you to do. We want you to reach out, and what you're going to hear is that it's a process, that sometimes the best support you can be is just being a listening ear, because survivors know that when you leave, it's the most dangerous time. They know their situations have to take, sometimes it's a process that has to take time with safety planning. Quite often we're seeing a lot of financial abuse where victims don't have any access to their money. They may work full time, but still find that they have no idea where their money goes, have no access to it. So we work with survivors all the time who are still involved in these relationships. And for so many people, they're like, that must be so hard for you. And it is hard. We actually have a group that we run that is filled with individuals who are still in the abusive relationship. But we know that it is a process. You have to leave safely, and making those plans is sometimes so life or death that we need to make sure that survivors feel empowered to do it at their own pace. So reaching out to 180, whether you're someone who is experiencing violence or concerned about someone, is definitely the best route, because you're going to get sound advice that's going to keep yourself safe if you are a survivor, or keep the person that you love safe. I, recently have heard that people are, really concerned leading into the holiday season, right? They have to sit across from the person that they may suspect is hurting, I have to sit across from my brother-in-law and I know that he's hurting my sister. And how do I sit across from him and not want to jump across the table? And really explaining that by doing that, by identifying that person as being the person that's doing harm, you're putting your sister in real harm's way. Mm-hmm. Because, when loving someone means being there for them and making sure that you're doing it in a way that is respectful of empowering them to find their own way.
You mentioned the holidays, and one of the things that hit me the hardest my first year as mayor was the mental pain that people go through as the holidays start coming. And my first year as mayor, it was tough. It was tough because this is 2019, so this is even before the pandemic, and I wasn't prepared to see the number of suicides or attempted suicides that take place, especially around the holidays. And I look at myself and I see somebody that is willing, and able to see a situation, identify where and what we need to do, and move on, and not be fazed by it. And when that was occurring, I just couldn't help but think about like all the other people that are now around me. That who is that person that I just got a call about, for a suicide? What could I have done? What caused this person to go down this route? And you brought up the dining room table, and looking around at Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or New Year's, whatever it may be, and Friendsgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that there's pain behind people's faces, but it's not obvious to the person that's not going to know them, but you can still see it. And there's things that you can do without violating someone's public trust or whatever. But I just want to echo your comments, because it's I've told only a few people of that time when I couldn't understand and grasp why there were so many people with the issues that were there, and you blame yourself in a way, even though it's not your fault, and there's probably nothing you could have done about that other than spread the word of resources that are available for you. And that's why I'm so grateful that you came here today to talk about that and so openly. Tell me, how does somebody get in touch with 180? What's the best way if they're experiencing any of the abuses or domestic violence or sexual assault? What's the best way for people to get in contact for 180? Because obviously for a lot of them it's going to be secret, or as confidential as possible from their end, as well as from 180's end.
So we have a 24/7 confidential hotline, and that's 732-264-4111. And you can always go to our website, which is 180nj.org. But really just calling and speaking to somebody on our hotline will really help to kind of navigate what the next steps are, whether you're concerned about somebody, whether you're experiencing violence yourself, to be able to talk to somebody that's going to provide you with that non-judgmental support. So often survivors are carrying around shame, and really being able to learn that the burden of blame and does not lie with them, right? The shame should be with the person who's doing harm. But you're talking about prolonged periods of time where, abuse typically does not happen overnight, mm-hmm. right? It's a cycle of kind of breaking someone down, lots of gaslighting, really making people feel like maybe they're going crazy or maybe they're not worthy of love, worthy of respect. So making that phone call and realizing that it starts with that very brave first step, mm-hmm. making that phone call, talking to someone who is going to be able to say, you're not alone. You're not the first person to experience this, and we can help you. We can help you find your way.
Santa Claus is coming to town. It's time to kick off the holiday season with Middletown Recreation and the Middletown Arts Center's annual Christmas tree lighting. Bring the whole family to the Middletown Arts Center, located at 36 Church Street, on Sunday, December 1st from 5 to 7 p.m. for a magical evening of holiday cheer. You'll be able to snap a photo with Santa, make festive crafts, and watch classic Christmas cartoons under the stars. Also, don't miss the giant inflatable gingerbread house. This is a free event for Middletown residents, and you can RSVP now on Rec Desk at middletownnj.org/sign-up. We hope to see you there.
You're here joining us on Locally Sourced. However, 180 Turning Lives Around has started their own podcast. Tell me about it. How's it going? Number one, how did you come up with the idea? What led you to it, and who's been your guest so far, and how are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. It's a little nerve-wracking, to start a podcast, but it was one of the things that in my new leadership role I really wanted to bring forward. I've been listening to podcasts recently, listening to this podcast, and really know that it's a great way to provide a glimpse into the work that we're doing. So in October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, was our inaugural podcast, and we had our new board president, Christina Zuck, who joined me. And what we talked about was sort of the new leadership. I don't think that it's quite often that you have a brand new board president and a brand new CEO right in the same few months. Yep. So it's been an exciting time for the organization to really think about, what's the vision for the future. And we talked a little bit about the creation of a survivor board and really talking about bringing survivors in an advisory role to our board of trustees, to the work that we're doing. Because like I mentioned earlier, having a survivor-led organization is, I think, key to making sure that we're doing the best job we can to support folks in the future. And really being able to hear those voices in all of the decisions that we're making, that lived experience. So we're excited about that. The board approved creating a survivor advisory board, and we're in the process of onboarding some chairs who are going to then work to bring survivors in that are interested in providing us with their feedback about, everything that we're doing, from marketing, from major decisions about programs. And I think it's going to be such an asset to the way that we're making decisions.
Definitely. No, I think that's great. 180 Turning Lives Around podcast with Liz Graham, available Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Liz, I've always been inspired by 180. I'm fortunate to have friends and colleagues that are around me that have really catapulted 180 into my life, working alongside them. Brian Nelson, former president of the board of 180 Turning Lives Around and our township attorney here. Rick Colber, who's a great friend of mine on the board. Lori Davidson, another great friend, former councilwoman in Keyport. And I'm just, fortunate that not only is Middletown the base for 180, but to have leadership like yours and a board's leadership that these board members are not doing this for their careers. They're not doing it for anything other than being a voice, being an advocate for those that are going through a time period that is unfathomable for a lot of people out there. And I think it's so amazing that I'm just so proud of the work that you all do, and everyone should know that it's an organization I hope one day has to close its doors, to be perfectly honest, because it's something not a lot of people want to think about, but it's something that everybody should know and be thinking about when and if they ever need that help. So Liz, thank you for everything that you do. Thanks for everything that you have done for this town, this county, over 17, 18 years of service for it, because you've done an amazing job and being that advocate and that spokesperson for people that may have lost their voice. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. And we are so very grateful to the partnership we have with Middletown. We couldn't do this work and help survivors each and every day without them, without your team, without the police force, without everyone that is always supportive of 180 in so many different ways. So we are very, very grateful for that partnership. It's
a team effort, and it'll take a team to end domestic violence and sexual assault everywhere. So keep doing what you're doing, and Middletown will be there for as long as 180 is there. So Liz Graham joining us, CEO and Executive Director of 180 Turning Lives Around, joining us here on Locally Sourced. Maybe one day I will get to be on the 180 Turning Lives Around podcast with Liz Graham. But Liz, you guys are amazing. Everything that you do over at 180 is amazing. Be sure to be on the lookout for Middletown's next podcast. We have some great guests coming up, and we are very excited to keep talking about all the great things that make up Middletown that are locally sourced.